Oedipus Rex. Yeah, let's talk about a fun time at the movies. Why are we doing this one? I don't really know. A couple weeks ago, I think it was, TCM was doing a lot of like the Greek mythology movies, and I was like, I'm gonna record a couple of those to watch later. Among them was Oedipus Rex. It is a story I am very sure you are aware of. If you're not, just to put it in simple terms, it is a Greek tragedy from Sophocles, I believe is the one who did this story. It's about a guy who is destined to kill his father, replace him, and marry his mother. And it became like the edible complex. You are probably very much aware of that. Oedipus is a guy who did some weird stuff. And this is like one of the few movies that is made about that story. Because nobody really wants to tell it. And you know what? I can't blame you. Because it's weird. But it's also just very, very classic Greek tragedy stuff. This is a movie that consists of people yelling at each other for a good majority of it. And that's pretty cool. If you want to see that. I didn't know what to expect going into this. I'm aware of the story. I've never read it. I've never been too fascinated by it. But it's something that you're just so culturally aware of. You know what's going to come from something like this. I found this movie to be quite interesting on a visual standpoint. From just filming in real deserts, I don't know, like I think it just really works, especially in an older film when we have beautiful colors and just filmmakers wanting to do stuff. Maybe because I was watching the Man of No Name trilogy a couple months ago, it really reminded me of like other Italian films just set in the desert, beautiful colors, just filming stuff and moving the camera at the beautiful scenery around you of people in insane costumes. It really had that vibe to me. It's an Italian film. It's from Pasolini, who is a very famed filmmaker, who's made other Greek tragedy films as well. This one may be the most iconic because of what the story represents. Not too familiar with a lot of his work, but definitely one of those like early visual language guys who just knew how to move a camera and said, I'm going to define cinema for a generation. This movie just feels so epic while being so tragically small. Like every place we are filming is like abandoned ruins or just things that existed through centuries and we're just using them for these locations. I'm sure there are some sets that are built here, but it's mainly just wandering through fields and grassy mountains and dusty trails and then just putting people in insane headgear and having them have a story to tell about the life of this broken man who made mistakes. It's also very interesting because the movie opens with and bookends with stuff set in more contemporary times. Like the movie opens up with a post-war vision of this woman and her man, and they're like together and they have a kid together. When he returns from the war, he sees this kid and realizes that it's going to take his place for like the love of his wife or something. So he banishes the kid away. And then we go into the actual Greek stuff that takes place in, ancient times or whatever you want it to be. Very specific. It is probably an accurate retelling of the story as somebody who isn't too familiar with the actual like flow of how this is written or supposed to go down. It does feel very much like any other tragedy of the era. This is a guy who is going to be king. Things happen to him and he gets messed up and then he learns a lesson, and that is, I don't know, greed is bad and don't fuck your mom, I guess. It's a little more complex than that. The visual language really helps this one. I think it's just a lot of like telling the story through the camera as opposed to having these beautiful pieces of dialogue. There is some really interesting dialogue here. It does feel secondary to just having this look beautiful, and it looks really good. We used to make films so differently. Like we'd have the camera facing up with somebody looking off into like the wild green yonder or whatever, and there's like beautiful skies behind them. We don't really do that anymore. It's just really beautiful to see that. So this baby is abandoned, Some guy finds it and he gives the baby to his king. The kid is now named Oedipus, and he is going to grow up to rule, but first he wants to go on a journey to find himself. So when he is of a distinctive age, whether that age is younger or older in the actual story, I don't know. He sets off on a journey and he talks to the Oracle of Delphi. And the Oracle tells him, "You're that weird kid. You're going to kill your dad and make love to your mom." And he's like, "That's stupid. I don't believe in prophecies." But it's Greek time, so every prophecy does come true, which is, I mean, it's so interesting to see filmmakers talk about that stuff. Some of them I think are better at handling like the nature of a god and like, is there really like some predetermined outcome for your life? And if an oracle tells you something, is it true? Some filmmakers think it's just all like hogwash and nothing real, and others are like, no, this is like mythology. It's about this guy's journey. It's an epic journey. All of this is going to be true. In this interpretation, everything that happens is like very true and real, and this is the guy falling apart. So he is going to kill his father and sleep with his mother. Along the way, he goes down this road to like a temple of Apollo, I do believe it is, and there's some people in his way. It's 4 men and then like a king, and he kills them all through like acts of just random violence. Weird looking swords and weapons. The helmets and headgear in this movie are crazy. I love them all to no end. Just insane things that a normal person shouldn't wear because they're not going to help you see anything or do anything fantastic. They're just weird and crazy. But you gotta respect it for looking that silly. So he kills these people. What he doesn't know is the person he kills on this trail is King Laius, or Laius? I think it's Laius or something like that, who we will find out later. If you're familiar with the story, you know this character is his father. He doesn't know it at the time because he thinks the people that found him are his birth parents, but this man that he kills in this action is actually his father. This leads him to go to Thebes. Is that the name of this city? I'm sorry. I didn't have a Greek phase. I was never into like, I got to do all this stuff. I think we talked about that a little bit with like Percy Jackson. Does nothing for me. I'm more of the Jason and the Argonauts. Look at these skeletons attacking you. So like the real names of stuff, I don't really know them. But he goes to this city. These people are desolate and they're like, there's a big sphinx blocking our way from entering the city. If you get there, whoever kills the Sphinx can marry our princess Jocasta. So he's like, okay, I mean, I'm going to be a king anyways. Might as well kill this guy. This guy's like, you're destined for doing bad stuff. Don't go down this path. If you kill me now, you're going to sleep with your mom. And he kills him. And then we realize as the story progresses that Jocasta is his mom. So he marries his mom. And he falls in love with his mother. You are very familiar with this story. It is an interpretation that is just so classically Greek, but I think the majority of people are well aware of what this kind of thing entails. Classic tragedy stuff, the unknowingness of this. There's been types of remakes that follow this story. I don't know, handles it as well as you could. Like, nobody is happy with the revelations that come through it, but you need the revelations because if you don't, bad things are still gonna happen. It's really cool. I don't know. It handles it well. That's kind of all you need. Is just something competent to do this. I do like all these people. I think Franco Citi, is that his name, who plays Oedipus, is pretty good. Like, he screams a lot and he's very emotive, but he also looks distinctively different from everybody, so he's very much like the lead. He's got a very good face. He can handle this stuff. How much do we have to get into this, really? Like, the story goes on and he is greeted by like a blind man who tells him, you made a mistake. Your arrogance led you to this thing, dude. And now look at you. You messed up. You're the plague that is destroying Thebes. You cannot help these people. You are what's causing their problem. And that is when he slowly starts to realize that maybe the world he thought was his is actually a lie. And as the story progresses, because we're kind of just speeding through it, it's a lot of getting him to meet Jocasta, and then it's just, anyways, that's your mom, and it's terrible that you guys love each other or something. So he learns the truth. He finds somebody he spared when he killed his father. It was like a servant that ran away. Then he like tells him the truth of like the baby and the stuff that happened there. And that is when he just realizes the truth and shit hits the fan, and he's actually destroying this city that he is supposed to be protecting and the king of. And everyone's like, I think you're making mistakes here. And in classic tragedy fashion, Jocasta kills herself, she hangs herself, and then Oedipus, through the mistakes that he has made, blinds himself and then wanders the streets a blind man. But then the movie cuts to the present day, I guess, of 1967, just when the movie was released, and we see like a man walking with his like son, and it's just like, all's well that ends well, when reality isn't a Greek tragedy. I guess. I guess that's the lesson. I completely understand the like draw to want to go and tell like a classic Greek story of like mythology in that. Christopher Nolan's doing one. You know, like everyone wants to do these things because they're big and they're sweeping and it's costumes and characters and it's all over the place. And I think there's something really impressive that can come from telling it with the limited resources of like an Italian film. Like it just gives you something a little more unique. It just feels very homemade, hand-strung, close-knit. I really like that. A lot of screaming, really insane sound design. I don't know why, but some of the like the sound choices are just very jarring and loud, but I'm not against it. And the costuming just works. You know, back in the day, we just have 100 people standing in stupid costumes doing stuff. Sometimes that is a lost art form, but it works really well when we see it in a really cool presented way. And this movie, hey, if you want to see a guy realizing he's an idiot for sleeping with his mom and killing his dad, this is the definitive story about that, and maybe the definitive movie that tells the definitive story. There's other interpretations, of course, but this is Oedipus Rex at its most pure and distilled, and somehow it's about like a post-war Italy. So there's something to deal with. I don't know. I was glad I watched it. Do I need to watch it again? I would show it to people, but it's a silly little movie. That is Oedipus Rex. Will we talk about another Greek tragedy? I'm sure we will. Because in the lead up to the Odyssey, there's a lot to talk about. Anyways, thank you for watching this episode of Dramatic Tales. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck, and remember, folks, there are choices we make in our lives that we shouldn't follow. We shouldn't kill our fathers, we shouldn't marry our mothers, and we shouldn't listen to what oracles say. But maybe we should, because they turn out to be right about everything in the end.